The sky above Earth burned orange and red. Admiral Helena Vance stood on the bridge of the carrier ship Defiance and watched her home world die. Giant warships hung in orbit like dark clouds. Their weapons fired again and again. Each blast turned another city into ash and glass. Admiral, her second-in-command, said. His voice was shaking. "We cannot stay. The Dominion fleet is turning toward us." Helena did not move. Her eyes stayed fixed on the blue and green planet below. She had been born in a small town near the ocean. She had learned to swim in those waters. Now those waters were boiling away. "How many made it to the Exodus ships?" she asked. 2 million, Admiral. All 12 ships are ready, but we must go now." 2 million out of 8 billion people. Helena closed her eyes for a moment. She had saved so few. But 2 million was better than 0. 2 million could rebuild. 2 million could remember. "Send the final message to all remaining human forces," she said. "Tell them to fight. Tell them to make the Dominion pay for every inch of ground. Buy us time." On Earth and on the moon colonies, the last human soldiers received her message. They knew they would die. They fought anyway. They fought with guns and bombs and their bare hands. They made the bleed for their victory. Helena watched as the Dominion Supreme Commander's ship moved into position above North America. She knew what was coming. The final blow. "Admiral, please," her officer begged. "We have to jump now. The warp drives are ready." The flagship fired its main weapon. A beam of white light shot down from space. Where it touched the Earth, the ground itself caught fire. The beam moved slowly across the continent, leaving nothing but melted rock behind. Helena finally turned away from the window. There were tears on her face, but her voice was steady. "Activate Protocol Exodus," she said. "All 12 ships jump on my mark." The experimental warp drives hummed to life. Human scientists had been working on this technology in secret for years. It was untested over long distances. It might kill them all, but staying meant certain death. "Coordinates locked," the navigation officer reported. "Destination, the void between galactic arms. No species has ever traveled that far." "That is the point," Helena said. "They cannot follow where they cannot imagine going." On her tactical screen, she watched the Dominion fleet finish its work. Earth was gone now, just a burning ball of rock where a civilization had once lived. The moon bases were destroyed. The Mars colony was under attack. But the 12 Exodus ships were hidden in the asteroid belt. The Dominion had not found them. They had been built in secret over 20 years, disguised as mining stations. Each ship was 5 kilometers long and carried supplies for 100 years of travel. "All ships report ready," the communications officer said. Helena took one last look at the system where humanity had been born. She made a silent promise. Someday her people would return. Someday the Dominion would answer for this crime. "Mark," she said. 12 ships vanished from normal space. They left behind a small energy signature that the Dominion scanners recorded as debris from the battle. No one investigated. Why would they? The humans were dead. The war was over. The jump lasted 3 days. Inside the ships, 2 million humans huddled together in fear and grief. They had lost everything, their families, their planet, their place in the galaxy. Many of them wept. Some sat in silent shock. Children asked their parents when they could go home, and parents had no answers. When the ships finally dropped out of warp, they found themselves in perfect darkness. No stars were visible nearby. They had traveled further than any species in galactic history. Admiral Vance addressed her people through the ship's communication system. Her face appeared on every screen in every ship. "We have lost our home," she said. "We have lost our world, but we have not lost ourselves. The Dominion thinks we are dead. Let them think that. Let them forget us. Because while they forget, we will remember, we will build, we will grow strong. And one day when our children's children are ready, we will return." She paused to let her words sink in. The galaxy will learn that humanity does not die so easily. Today we mourn. Tomorrow we begin again. This is not the end of our story. This is just a new chapter. In the weeks that followed, the 12 ships found a small system with rocky planets and asteroids full of metal. It was cold and dark, far from any sun, but it was safe. No one would find them here. The survivors began to build. They dug into asteroids and made them into stations. They grew food in underground farms. They rationed every resource and wasted nothing. Helena Vance led them for 30 more years. She never stopped working. She never stopped planning. On her deathbed, she called her successor to her side. "Do not let them forget Earth," she whispered. "Do not let them forget what was done to us, but do not let hatred consume them either. When we return, we must be better than our enemies. We must offer justice, not revenge." Her successor, a young captain named James, promised to honor her wishes. "How long?" he asked. "How long until we can go back?" Helena smiled weakly. "As long as it takes. 100 years, 200, 300, time means nothing to the dead, and to the galaxy we are dead. Use that gift wisely." She died that night. The fleet held a ceremony and released her body into the void between stars. 2 million humans watched in silence as their savior drifted away into the darkness. But they did not despair. Helena had given them something more valuable than hope. She had given them purpose. In the years that followed, humanity changed. They improved their technology. They built better ships. They trained their children to be soldiers and scientists and engineers. Every generation was stronger than the last. They sent small scout ships back toward the galaxy. These ships were nearly invisible, using technology that the Dominion could not detect. They watched. They learned. They mapped every Dominion base and every conquered world. And they waited. 300 years is a long time, long enough for the galaxy to forget, long enough for humans to become legends, then myths, then nothing at all. But in the darkness between the stars, the Exodus fleet grew. 200 warships now flew in perfect formation. 50 million humans called the fleet home. They had not forgotten. They would never forget. And soon, very soon, the galaxy would remember them too. 300 years had passed since Earth burned. The galaxy had moved on. New wars had been fought and ended. New alliances had formed and broken. The Dominion ruled a quarter of known space with an iron fist, and no one dared to challenge them. Ambassador of the walked slowly through the halls of Station Prime. She was old now, even by her species' long standards. Her blue skin had faded to pale gray, and her forearms moved with the careful slowness of age. But her mind was still sharp, and her memory was long. Today was the Unity Summit. All 12 species of the Galactic Concord would gather to renew their alliance. It was supposed to be a celebration of peace and cooperation. In truth, it was a reminder of who really controlled the galaxy. Through the great windows of the station could see the Dominion warships patrolling outside. There were 20 of them, each one capable of destroying a planet. They were not here as guests. They were here to watch, to remind everyone who held the power. She entered her private chambers and locked the door behind her. The room was filled with artifacts from her long career as a diplomat and historian. But her most treasured possession sat on a small shelf by her bed. It was a music box, a human music box. Picked it up gently and wound the small key on its side. A soft melody began to play. The tune was simple but beautiful. She had found this box 300 years ago in the ruins of a human colony that the Dominion had destroyed. She often wondered about the child who had owned it. Had they escaped? Had they died in the attack? She would never know. Such a strange species, she whispered to herself. So young, so full of fire, gone too soon. The humans had been members of the Concord for only 50 years before the Dominion attacked them. In that short time, they had made an impression on everyone they met. They were curious about everything. They asked questions constantly. They made friends easily and held onto those friendships fiercely. When the Dominion demanded that humanity surrender and become a slave race, the humans had refused. Every other species had given in. The humans alone had said no. It had cost them everything. Remembered watching the news feeds from Earth's destruction. She remembered the shock and horror she had felt. She also remembered the shame. The conquered had done nothing to help. They had been too afraid of the Dominion. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She quickly put the music box away and opened the door. Her assistant, a young named Sorrel, stood outside. "Ambassador, the summit is about to begin. The Dominion representative has arrived." "Of course he has," said bitterly. He would not miss a chance to show off his power. She followed Sorrel to the Great Hall. Representatives from all 12 conquered species were already taking their seats. At the head of the room, in a chair larger and grander than all the others, sat Supreme Commander Or of the Dominion. Or was tall and covered in black scales. His eyes were yellow and cold like a snake's. He wore armor made of gold and red metal, decorated with symbols of his many victories. When he spoke, his voice was deep and carried a threat in every word. "Welcome, friends," he said, though he clearly did not consider anyone in the room a friend. "Another year of peace, another year of cooperation. The Dominion is pleased." The other ambassadors murmured their thanks. None of them meant it. All of them were afraid. Took her seat and stayed silent. She had learned long ago that speaking against the Dominion only brought pain. 3 of her closest friends had disappeared over the years for saying the wrong thing. Or continued his speech but was not listening. Her mind wandered to memories of the past. She thought about a human ambassador she had once known. His name was David Park, and he had represented humanity at these same summits. David had been different from any alien she had ever met. He laughed easily and often. He told stories and jokes. He brought gifts from Earth to share with the other ambassadors. He genuinely wanted to understand other cultures. "Why do you ask so many questions?" she had asked him once. "Because every answer leads to more questions," he had replied with a smile. "That is what makes life interesting." David had died on Earth with the rest of his people, sometimes dreamed about him. In her dreams, he was still smiling. Far away, on the edge of the galaxy, Supreme Commander Or had no such pleasant memories. He had not become the most powerful military leader in the Dominion by being sentimental, but he was smart, and smart leaders paid attention to details. For the past 50 years, his long-range sensors had been detecting strange readings from the void between galactic arms, small energy spikes, unusual radiation patterns, signals that did not match any known species. His advisors told him it was nothing, background noise, cosmic interference. Or was not convinced. He had ordered probes sent to investigate, but none of them had returned. That alone was strange. Space was dangerous, but losing 12 probes in the same region was more than bad luck. "Tell me," he said to his chief scientist during a private meeting, "what species could survive in the void between arms? There are no resources there, no planets, no suns." "None that we know of, Supreme Commander," the scientist replied nervously. "It would require technology far beyond anything in the galaxy." "Beyond anything we know of," Or corrected. "That is not the same thing." He stood at his window and looked out at the stars. The humans had been nothing. A young species barely out of their cradle. Destroying them had been easy. But something nagged at him, a feeling he could not explain, a sense that he was missing something important. "Increase the patrols on our outer borders," he ordered. "I want to know the moment anything unusual happens." "Yes, Supreme Commander. May I ask what you are looking for?" Or did not answer for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "Ghosts," he said. "I am looking for ghosts." Back on Station Prime, the summit was ending. The ambassadors filed out of the Great Hall, returning to their ships, and there, nothing had changed. Nothing ever changed. Returned to her chambers and took out the music box again. She wound it up and listened to the melody. Such a simple thing, such a human thing. "I am sorry," she whispered to the memory of David Park and all the other humans she had known. "I am sorry we did not help you. I am sorry we were cowards." She did not know that her apology would soon be answered. She did not know that the ghosts or feared were very real. In the darkness between the stars, 200 human warships were completing their final preparations. Their warp drives were charged. Their weapons were ready. 50 million humans waited for the order to move. Admiral, great-great-grandson of James and distant heir to Helena Vance's legacy, stood on the bridge of his flagship. In his hand, he held an old photograph of Earth, passed down through 5 generations. "Soon," he said softly to the image of a world he had never seen, "we are coming home." The galaxy had forgotten humanity. It would not forget them again. The void between galactic arms was the loneliest place in the universe. No stars burned here. No planets orbited in the darkness. It was empty space stretching for thousands of light years in every direction. And yet in this impossible place, humanity had found a home. Admiral walked through the corridors of the flagship Remembrance. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried 50,000 people. It was a city that flew through space. Children played in its parks. Families ate dinner in its cafeterias. Scientists worked in its laboratories. This was the heart of the Exodus fleet. 200 warships and dozens of support vessels, all traveling together through the darkness. 50 million humans lived in this moving civilization. Reached the observation deck and stood before the great window. Outside, he could see the other ships of the fleet. Their lights twinkled like stars in the void. Each one was a miracle of engineering, built by generations of humans who refused to give up. "Admiral," a voice came from behind him, "the Council of Captains is ready." Nodded and followed his aide to the council chamber. 12 captains sat around a circular table representing the 12 original Exodus ships. Their faces were serious. Everyone knew why they had gathered. 300 years began. That is how long we have waited. Our ancestors fled from the Dominion with nothing but the clothes on their backs and the knowledge in their minds. They built everything we have from scratch. They survived when survival seemed impossible. He looked around the table at the faces of his officers. Some were old, veterans of decades of service. Others were young, born on the fleet and knowing no other home. "Our scouts have returned from their latest mission," continued. "The Dominion is as strong as ever. They control a quarter of the galaxy. The conquered species live in fear under their shadow. Nothing has changed." Captain Sarah, commander of the Defiance II, spoke up. "If nothing has changed, why act now? We could wait another 100 years, grow even stronger." "Because strength without purpose is meaningless," replied. "Our people grow restless. The young ones ask why we hide in the darkness. They want to see the stars their ancestors came from. They want to walk on real planets under real suns." "They want revenge," another captain said bluntly. "Can you blame them? The Dominion murdered our entire world." Held up his hand. "I understand the anger. I feel it too, but we must be careful. If we return for revenge alone, we become no better than the Dominion. Admiral Vance warned us about this in her final words. Justice, not revenge." "What is the difference?" Captain asked. "Revenge destroys without building. Justice creates something better." Pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. "Our scouts have mapped everything. We know where the Dominion is strongest. We know where the conquered species are suffering. We know which worlds would rise up if they had hope." He pointed to a space station at the center of the map. "Station Prime. The Unity Summit is happening there in 3 weeks. Every conquered ambassador will be present. The Dominion will have a fleet there to show their power." "You want us to attack there?" a young captain asked, surprised. In the middle of a diplomatic summit. Not attack, said. Arrive. We will emerge from warp in full force. We will show the galaxy that humanity is not dead. We will demonstrate our power to the Dominion and offer hope to the conquered. The room fell silent as the captains considered his plan. It is risky, Captain said slowly. If the Dominion attacks us immediately, we will be fighting in the middle of civilian territory. They will not attack immediately, said confidently. They will be too shocked, too confused. By the time they recover, we will have made our point. And what point is that? Smiled grimly. That the universe is bigger than they thought, that some things cannot be killed, that humanity has returned. An old captain named spoke up. He was the oldest person in the fleet, over 100 years old. His grandfather had served under Admiral Vance herself. I have waited my whole life for this moment, said. When I was a child, my grandmother told me stories about Earth. She remembered the blue oceans and the green forests. She remembered the cities full of people and music and life. She cried every time she spoke of it. He stood up slowly, his old bones creaking. I promised her I would see Earth again. I promised her I would walk on human soil before I died. Now I am running out of time. If we wait another 100 years, I will not be here. The other captains looked at each other. Many of them had similar stories. Everyone in the fleet had lost something when Earth died. We vote, said, all in favor of returning to the galaxy. One by one, hands rose around the table. First captain, then all the others. The vote was unanimous. Then it is decided, said. In 3 weeks we go home. The news spread through the fleet like wildfire. 50 million humans heard that they were finally leaving the void. The reaction was overwhelming. People laughed and cried and embraced each other. Parents told their children that soon they would see real stars and real planets. In the military sections of the fleet, soldiers prepared their weapons and armor. Human weapons had evolved far beyond anything the Dominion possessed. Their ships could fire projectiles that ignored shields completely. Their fighters could fly circles around any enemy craft. But the greatest advantage was their warp technology. 300 years of development had created drives that were faster, more accurate, and completely undetectable. A human fleet could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Spent the next 3 weeks reviewing every detail of the plan. He studied the layout of Station Prime. He memorized the positions of the Dominion fleet. He prepared speeches and backup plans and emergency procedures. At night, when he finally returned to his quarters, he would take out the old photograph of Earth. It had been passed down through 5 generations of family commanders. The image was faded and worn, but he could still see the blue oceans and white clouds. "We are coming," he whispered to the picture. "Hold on just a little longer." On the final night before the jump, addressed the entire fleet. His face appeared on every screen in every ship. "Tomorrow we emerge from the darkness," he said. "Tomorrow the galaxy will learn that we survived. Some will fear us, some will hate us, but some will remember what we were and welcome us back." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "We do not go to conquer. We go to reclaim our place among the stars. We go to show the Dominion that tyranny does not last forever. We go to offer hope to those who have lived in fear for 300 years. His voice hardened. "But make no mistake, if the Dominion attacks us, we will defend ourselves. If they try to destroy us again, they will learn that we are no longer the young species they slaughtered. We have become something new, something stronger, something that will not be broken." Across the fleet, 50 million humans listened. Soldiers checked their weapons one last time. Pilots ran final diagnostics on their fighters. Engineers monitored the warp drives that would carry them home. In the morning, the void between galactic arms would be empty once again. And the galaxy would never be the same. Station Prime floated in space like a giant metal flower. its 12 arms stretched outward, each one belonging to a different conquered species. At its center, a massive dome housed the Great Hall where the Unity Summit was taking place. Ambassador sat in her usual seat, trying not to fall asleep. Supreme Commander or was giving another long speech about Dominion greatness and conquered cooperation. She had heard it all before. Everyone had. Outside the great windows, 20 Dominion warships patrolled in perfect formation. Their dark shapes blocked out the stars. It was a display of power that no one could ignore. And so, or was saying, we enter another year of peace and prosperity under Dominion protection. Protection almost laughed at the word. It was not protection, it was control, it was fear. She glanced at the other ambassadors around her. The looked bored, the seemed nervous as always. The delegation was whispering among themselves. No one was truly paying attention. Then the alarm started. Every sensor on Station Prime lit up at once. Red lights flashed throughout the great hall. Warning sirens screamed from the walls. The ambassadors jumped to their feet in panic. "What is happening?" someone shouted. Or's communicator crackled with urgent voices. His yellow eyes went wide as he listened to the reports. "Warp signatures," he said, his voice disbelieving. "Hundreds of them appearing all around the station." Pushed through the crowd to reach a window. What she saw there stopped her heart. The sky was tearing open. Bright lines of energy split the darkness as ships emerged from warp space. Not one or two ships, not 10 or 20. Hundreds of ships appearing in perfect formation around Station Prime. They were sleek and silver, built in a style that no one in the galaxy recognized. "Impossible," whispered. "This is impossible." Each ship bore the same emblem on its hull, a blue and green planet surrounded by a ring of fire, an ancient symbol that had only seen in history books. Earth, the symbol of Earth. The Dominion warship scrambled into defensive positions, or was screaming orders into his communicator. Fighters launched from the patrol ships and raced toward the newcomers. Then a transmission cut through every channel. Every speaker on Station Prime crackled to life. Every screen switched to the same image, a human face. Grabbed the edge of a table to keep from falling. It could not be. Humans were dead. Humans had been dead for 300 years. But the face on the screen was undeniably human. A man with gray hair and calm, dark eyes. He wore a military uniform decorated with medals and symbols. Behind him, could see a bridge full of human officers working at their stations. "This is Admiral of the Exodus Fleet," the human said. "We are the United Human Remnant. 300 years ago, the Dominion believed they had destroyed our species. They were wrong." The great hall fell completely silent. Ambassadors stood frozen, staring at the screens. Some of them trembled, others wept. One fainted and had to be caught by his colleagues. "We did not die," Admiral continued. "We fled, we hid, we survived, and now we have returned to reclaim our place among the stars." Or finally found his voice. He grabbed a communicator and broadcast his own message. "This is Supreme Commander or of the Dominion. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. You are outnumbered and outmatched." Admiral's expression did not change. "I suggest you count again, Commander." On the tactical screens, the true scale of the human fleet became clear. 200 warships had emerged from warp, surrounding the 20 Dominion vessels completely. The human ships were smaller than the Dominion capital ships, but there were 10 times as many of them. "You have 10 of your time units to stand down," Admiral said. "After that, any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force." Or scales flushed dark with rage. No one spoke to the Dominion this way. No one threatened the greatest military power in the galaxy. "All ships attack," he ordered. "Destroy these ghosts." The Dominion fighters reached the human lines first. They opened fire with their energy weapons, expecting to see human ships explode. Nothing happened. The human ship's shields absorbed the attacks like they were nothing. Then they returned fire. Watched in stunned silence as the human weapons tore through the Dominion fighters. The projectiles seemed to pass through Dominion shields as if they did not exist. Fighter after fighter exploded in bursts of fire and metal. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 2 minutes. When it was over, half of the Dominion fighters had been destroyed. The rest were fleeing back to their capital ships. "Your weapons cannot hurt us," Admiral said calmly. "Our shields can stop anything you fire. We have had 300 years to prepare for this moment. You have had nothing." Or stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His elite fighters had been swatted aside like insects. His magnificent warships were surrounded by enemies they could not touch. "This is your final warning," Admiral said. "Stand down, or we will demonstrate our full capabilities. I promise you will not enjoy the demonstration." In the Great Hall, Ambassador finally found her voice. "They survived," she said, tears streaming down her face. "They actually survived." The other ambassadors were beginning to recover from their shock. Some of them were smiling, others were laughing. For the first time in 300 years, someone had stood up to the Dominion. Someone had made them look weak. Or had to make a choice. He could order his fleet to attack and probably be destroyed. Or he could stand down and suffer the greatest humiliation in Dominion history. "All ships," he said through gritted teeth, "hold position. Do not engage." A cheer went up from somewhere in Station Prime. Then another. Within moments, the entire station was celebrating. Conquered diplomats who had lived their whole lives in fear were dancing and embracing each other. Admiral appeared on the screens again. This time, his expression was slightly warmer. "We did not come to conquer," he said. "We came to reclaim our place and to offer hope. The galaxy has lived under Dominion's shadow for too long. That ends today." Pushed through the crowd toward the main communication console. She had to speak to them. She had to let them know. "Admiral," she said, her voice trembling. "This is Ambassador of the I knew your people. I was there 300 years ago. I watched your world burn and did nothing. I am so sorry." There was a pause. Then Admiral's voice came through, softer than before. "Ambassador, we have heard of you. Your name appears in our historical records. You were a friend to humanity when few others were." Could not stop her tears. "I kept something, a human artifact, a music box. I have protected it all these years." On the screen, Admiral's composure cracked slightly. "A music box." "Yes, it plays a melody. I found it in the ruins of one of your colonies. I could not let it be forgotten." Admiral was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you, Ambassador. You have no idea what that means to us." Outside the station windows, the human fleet held its position. Their weapons were ready, but they did not fire. They had proven their point. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was back. And nothing would ever be the same again. Supreme Commander Or stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his empire crumble. His fleet was surrounded. His weapons were useless. The humans he had dismissed as ghosts had returned with technology that made the Dominion look like children playing with toys. "Order reinforcements from the nearest sector," he commanded. "Tell them to bring everything." His communications officer hesitated. "Supreme Commander, our long-range communications are being jammed. We cannot reach anyone outside this system." Or felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. Real, cold fear. On Station Prime, Ambassador watched the standoff through the observation windows. The human ships had not moved from their positions. They simply waited, their weapons pointed at the Dominion fleet. Admiral's voice came through the station speakers again. "Supreme Commander Or, I am sending a shuttle to your flagship. You will come aboard my ship for negotiations. If you refuse, we will disable your vessel and take you by force." Every conquered ambassador held their breath. No one had ever spoken to a Dominion Supreme Commander this way. No one had ever dared. Or had no choice. With his communications jammed and his fleet outmatched, negotiation was his only option. He boarded the shuttle with his personal guards and flew toward the human flagship. The Remembrance was unlike any ship or had ever seen. Its corridors were clean and bright. Humans walked past him in organized groups, their faces showing no fear. They looked at him with curiosity, not hatred. That surprised him more than anything. Admiral waited in a large conference room. He stood as or entered, a gesture of respect that the Dominion commander had not expected. "Please sit," said. "We have much to discuss." Or remain standing. "What do you want? Revenge? You could destroy my fleet right now. Why talk?" "Because revenge would make us no better than you," gestured to a chair again. "We have not survived for 300 years to become the thing we hated. Please sit." Slowly, or lowered himself into a chair. His guards stayed close, though they were clearly outmatched by the human soldiers in the room. 300 years ago, said, your predecessors ordered the destruction of Earth. 8 billion people died. Our civilization was erased. You thought that would be the end of humanity. It should have been, or said quietly. No species survives that kind of loss. We did, and we had 3 centuries to think about what we wanted to do when we came back. Leaned forward. We could have built weapons capable of glassing worlds the way you glassed Earth. We have the technology. We have the power. Or's eyes narrowed. Then why did you not? Because that would solve nothing. It would just create more hatred, more fear, more cycles of violence that never end. His voice was firm but not angry. We want something better, something that actually works. He activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Dominion territory was marked in red. Conquered space was marked in blue. Hundreds of other colors showed independent worlds and small empires. The Dominion has ruled through fear for 500 years, said. You conquer worlds. You enslave populations. You destroy anyone who challenges you. That system is about to change. You cannot defeat the entire Dominion with 200 ships, Or said. We do not need to defeat you. We just need to show everyone else that you can be beaten, smiled grimly. Right now, every species in the Conquered is watching this moment. They are seeing the mighty Dominion commander sitting across from a human admiral, unable to fight back. What do you think happens when word spreads? Or understood immediately. If the Dominion appeared weak, their subject worlds would rebel. Centuries of fear would turn to anger. The empire would tear itself apart from within. You would not destroy us, continued. Fear would. The same fear you have used to control everyone else will now consume you. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. What do you propose? Or finally asked. Peace, real peace, not the false peace of conquest. The Dominion pulls back to its original borders. You stop conquering new worlds. You release the species you have enslaved. His voice hardened. And you pay reparations to every world you have damaged, including what remains of Earth's solar system. And if we refuse, then we share our technology with every species who wants to fight you. We arm your enemies. We train their soldiers. We watch as your empire burns. Or closed his eyes. The choice was clear: accept limitations or face destruction. His pride screamed at him to fight. His survival instinct told him to submit. The Dominion High Council will need to approve this, he said. They have 1 cycle to decide. After that, our offer expires. Back on Station Prime, the news of the negotiations spread quickly. Ambassador organized the conquered representatives into an emergency session. For the first time in centuries, they discussed the future without Dominion observers watching their every word. This is a turning point, told them. Humanity has given us a chance we never thought we would have. The question is, what do we do with it? The discussions lasted for hours. Some ambassadors wanted revenge against the Dominion. Others wanted to remain neutral, but most agreed that this was an opportunity to build something better. In the end, the conquered voted to support humanity's proposal. They would work together to create a new galactic order, one based on cooperation instead of fear. 3 days later, the Dominion High Council accepted the terms. They had no choice. Reports of rebellion were already coming in from a dozen worlds. Their empire was cracking, and they needed time to hold it together. Admiral broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. His face appeared on screens in conquered worlds, Dominion territories, and independent systems alike. "Today begins a new era," he said. "For 300 years humanity waited in darkness. We rebuilt ourselves. We grew strong, but we did not become monsters. We chose to be better." He paused and his voice softened. "I want to address the Dominion directly. We have not forgotten what you did to our world. We will never forget. But we choose to move forward rather than backward. We choose to build rather than destroy. If you can change, if you can become a positive force in the galaxy instead of a tyrant, then maybe someday we can truly be at peace." On Station Prime, Ambassador requested a personal meeting with Admiral. He agreed, and a shuttle brought her to the Remembrance. They met in his private quarters. The room was simple but filled with artifacts from human history. Old books, faded photographs, a chess set made of real wood, and on a shelf by the window an empty space waiting to be filled. "I brought something for you," said. She held out the music box with trembling hands. Took it gently. He turned the small key and listened as the melody played. His eyes filled with tears. "My grandmother had one like this," he said quietly. "She used to play it for me when I was a child. She said it reminded her of Earth." "Keep it," said. "It belongs with your people." Placed the music box in the empty space on his shelf. It fit perfectly, as if it had always belonged there. "Thank you, Ambassador, for remembering us, for caring when no one else did." Shook her head. "I did not do enough. I should have fought for you 300 years ago." "You are fighting now. That is what matters." 6 months later, Admiral stood on the bridge of the Remembrance as it entered Earth's solar system. The fleet followed behind him, every ship carrying humans who had never seen their ancestral home. Earth hung in the viewport but alive. 3 centuries of natural recovery had brought some green back to the continents. The oceans had refilled. Clouds drifted across the sky. A young officer approached the Admiral. "Sir, long-range scans show no hostile activity. The system is clear." Nodded. He could not take his eyes off the planet. "What happens now, Admiral?" the officer asked. Was silent for a moment. He thought about his ancestors who had fled in desperation. He thought about the generations who had lived and died in the void, never knowing if their descendants would see the stars again. He thought about Admiral Vance's final words about justice over revenge. "Now we go home," he said softly. "Now we rebuild. Now we make sure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else." The first human shuttle in 300 years descended through Earth's atmosphere and landed on the shore of an ancient ocean. Admiral stepped onto the sand and felt the warmth of a real sun on his face. Behind him, 50 million humans waited for their turn to touch the ground of there. Some would stay. Others would spread out across the galaxy, but all of them would remember this moment. Humanity had returned, and this time they were here to stay.